This is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. I have another exciting episode for you. So I'm here in my garden, and in my garden, one of the biggest questions I get a lot is, hey John, do you eat everything you grow? Well, I can't eat everything I grow. It actually probably almost be physically impossible. I probably could do it if I really wanted to and eat nothing else, but I like to eat a wide variety of fresh fruits and fresh vegetables and other things as well. So I don't eat everything I grow. But that being said, I eat a good portion of what I grow. And some people might be saying, well, John, I know right now in the winter time you're growing actually mostly greens. Do you really eat all those greens, and how do you eat them? Well, most people may eat greens and stuff in a salad, and some people may cook them up, boil them, steam them up like that. But that's actually not my way that I like to do it. I like to eat them in a salad, and the other way to use them or to juice them. So today is going to be an episode of me harvesting some of the greens in my garden and making a delicious vegetable juice with it. Now, when juicing, you literally turn one leaf of broccoli, for example, into like that much juice. Like one leaf doesn't make a lot. So while it looks like I may have a lot of food here, once you start juicing it, man, it goes really quick. So you could actually burn through a lot of produce really quick. So it only makes sense if you are into juicing to start growing your own greens because then you're going to save a lot of money. You could buy a whole head of kale or collards or broccoli rabe greens for like $2, $3, maybe $4 depending on where you live, and it's going to turn into like that much juice. But when you grow it all, it's all free. You could juice until your heart's content, and it doesn't cost you anything except some time and love to grow some of these plants. So next, let's go ahead and go around my garden and pick some of the greens I'll be juicing today. First, we're gonna pick some greens. I already got some broccoli greens, and now we're gonna pick some collard greens. You could see in this front bed here, my spinach is coming up down below, and I got the collards and broccoli and kales coming up around it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around to the bottoms and pick off the nice big stalks like this that are blocking the spinach and blocking the sun. So, if you are growing an understory, I would highly encourage you to try to, pick the stuff that's blocking or shading out the other stuff. Let's see, here's a nice red Russian kale leaf. Here's another large leaf here. All just kinds of mixed greens. Here's another one, actually shading out a lot of stuff here. Pick that one up. Now when harvesting, what I'm going to do is I'm going around to each plant and like picking one leaf off each of the plants. I'm not picking like 2 leaves off any singular plant unless they're really shading out stuff. But I like to just go around and pick some of the larger leaves. The larger leaves are better for juicing, and the smaller leaves are better for eating. Well, I think I got a nice bunch of greens here. Next, let's go over to the bok choy that's been actually taking over. Got a lot of crazy bok choy, and one of my favorite things to do with the bok choy is to juice it up, especially when the leaves are getting really large, just like this. Let me show you guys this leaf, man. This leaf is insane. This is a singular bok choy leaf, and check it out. Peekaboo, I see you. That was the part for the kids. But seriously, this bok choy leaf is literally as big as my head. It's totally amazing. Now, my favorite part of the bok choy is not the greens, but the nice, juicy stalk. It's nice, water rich. It has a mild flavor. Not even as strong as celery, just watery and so good. But this will make an excellent juice in the juicer. It'll add a nice high water content food to your juice and also a nice flavor. So besides the large leaves, I got the flowering tops. I'm just gonna take a knife and cut out some of these flowering tops here. Check it out. We could juice all this up, stem and all. Now we will want to probably pre-cut the stem depending on the juicer you're using. And something else that's really cool is like this plant right here started out as one bok choy plant, and as it grew larger, it actually threw up multiple plants. So if we harvested this when it was young, it would look like what you buy in the grocery store. But since we waited, what we have is like multiple plants. So let me go ahead and try to show you guys what I mean here. I'm gonna go ahead and take a knife here and cut this stem out. So here's one whole head of bok choy that we just cut out of the plant, and if we come up close here, you can see I just cut it out here, but this one plant also made multiple heads now. So we're gonna go over to this area here and we're just gonna cut this one out. There it is, there's another whole head of bok choy. And check it out, here's even more heads coming up. Here's another head shooting off to the side, another nice head here. Here, let's cut this one off too. Check it out, yet some more bok choy. I mean, this is one plant. I got 3 heads and there looks like 1, 2, 3, at least 3 more little heads on this plant. So, you know, at this point, since they are going to flower and seeding, I'm not too concerned about really kind of ripping them up because I actually got so many so I can start juicing them up. Another good thing to juice are bug damaged and insect damaged leaves. So you can see over here, we got a few leaves that got some damage to them. And they're not that bad, but you know what? You wouldn't want to serve these to guests as a salad. They'd be like going, oh man, what's up with the Swiss cheese greens? But you know what? Your juicer doesn't care. It'll juice these up just fine and provide you some really good, nutritious juice. In addition, the flowering tops are also very juiceable. So you could obviously pick these as a broccoli, although I think this is not a broccoli plant. It's probably like a collard. You could just snap these guys off and use these for juicing. Also, snapping off the flowering tops will hopefully promote more leaf growth, but at this point, you know, it might be very difficult for it to get leafing out again. So the best you could hope for is to keep picking them and hope for a little bit more leaf growth before it actually goes to flower. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and pop a bunch of these guys off, the flowering tips. And this is a nice thing to add to the juice. Another thing I'm growing is the celerac. The celerac is actually a celery, but it's grown for the root, so it's actually just celery root or celerac. But what many people don't know is that you could also harvest the tops or the standard celery. So here's just some celery we could just basically break off from the plant, and this stuff is nice and delicate. Now this stuff is actually quite fibrous. It does have a good flavor. So you may not want to eat it, but if you juice it, you're going to get that nice, rich celery flavor in your juice. So an excellent thing to do with your celery root tops. You can also actually juice the celery root itself if you would like. Let's see here, I'm going to go ahead and grab a few more of these celery tops, and now we're going to head over and juice them up. Oh, but before I do, you may not want to juice the celery leaves. They can get actually quite strong. I'm going to actually juice mostly the stems with very few leaves. Now I'm ready to juice. We have the Omega Vert 350 HD juicer. Now this is probably my favorite juicer right now for juicing a combination that I'm going to juice today. Now there are many different kinds of juicers, and I got to get a plug in for my business, which is discountjuicers.com. On my website, discountjuicers.com, we show many different juicers that you can use to juice fruits and vegetables. Now, if you want to juice mostly leafy greens and some of these green foods, you want to get what's called a slow RPM juicer. So I would recommend either the Omega Vert 350 HD or 330 HD or the Omega 8004 or 8006. Each of those models have their pros and cons, and I have a whole nother YouTube channel that's dedicated to sharing with you how each juicer will juice certain produce items, better or worse than the others. I like the Omega Vert because it pretty much does a wide variety of things, runs at a slow RPM or low RPM, only 80 revolutions per minute, to ensure you get the highest quality juice, and also it's fairly efficient at the leafy greens. That being said, when using the Omega Vert, you do need to pay some attention, and just like riding a bicycle, you need to learn how to use it properly, or else it's not going to get the best results for you. So to use it properly, what we first need to do is prepare all our produce. So we have the bok choy here, and what we're going to do on the bok choy is we're going to actually chop it up into little sections. The Omega Vert has a problem with juicing things that have long strings in them. Much like the celery would be the classic example. If we pull this apart, you can see these long strings. They would tend to get jammed up in the machine. So we're going to cut it all up. And that's just a really easy step. We're going to use a knife here. And as you can see, I'm just cutting it up into little dices, into little pieces. So I have a nice large cutting board where I'm going to process or cut up all my vegetables before I juice them up. So there's all the bok choy. You can see I just have a nice bok choy. shred it up. This could be a bok choy salad, or you could juice it. Let's see, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take this celery. Once again on the celery, I don't really want to juice too many of the tops, so we're probably gonna go ahead and cut off a bunch of these tops, put them in the compost, and we're gonna juice the main stalks. And once again, very important on the celery stalks, we need to cut them into small little pieces so that they don't jam or clog up the juicer. Now this step of cutting is not needed on all juicers, just the Omega Vert. Other juicers may be more forgiving with feeding in things that are stringy. And that's one of the downsides of the Omega Vert. Alright, so you can see here we have some nice cut up celery. We're going to make a pile of celery on the table. Next we got all our greens. So man, I got a big bunch of greens here. And all we're going to do on the greens once again is we're going to take a bunch of the greens. And we're going to do the same thing. Once again, the stalks and the greens will jam up this machine, so we're just going to very carefully cut them up. Once again, take the knife and cut them up into little small sections. So I'm trying to do like, I don't know, 1/8-inch sections. Smaller the better to prevent clogging of the Omega Vert. And now when we get to this part that's all leafy, what I like to do is I like to just kind of roll this up into a big fat joint. Well, that's not the right green stuff. So anyways, once you got it all rolled up, you're going to just go ahead and, chop it up down the line. Really simple, real easy. This chops up the stem and also helps the juicer work more effectively because you are helping the juicer break down some of the fiber. Alright, so you can see here I have a whole bunch of shredded greens now, including the stem. We're going to move that over to the part of the cutting board. Now we have nice little piles of the bok choy, the celery, and those greens that I fresh harvested. In addition, we're going to add a few things to the juice because juicing only greens, that doesn't taste too good. So we want to add a lot of more water content. Of course, I could put more bok choy in for the water content, but sometimes I like my juice a little bit sweeter. So what we're also going to use are some apples. So we're also going to pre-cut the apples up so that they will fit in the machine. Very simple, very easy, just a few simple quick slices. We'll cut them up so that they'll fit into the feed chute of the machine. The best apples for juicing actually are something like the Granny Smiths. They have actually a nice firm texture and help move the pulp through the machine. Some juicers may have problems juicing apples because they're actually really soft and they may make more of an apple sauce. Besides the apples, what we're also going to add are some bell peppers. So these are yellow bells, and we're just going to basically pull off the top here and compost that, and we just cut this up into big pieces that'll fit in the machine. And yes, you can put the seeds and all the white pith in. The juicer will extract the nutrients from them. Alright, so now we got a bunch of piles here on the table. In addition, we're going to put a nice English cucumber. We're going to cut off the stem end. And what I like to do on the cucumber is to just cut it in half, and then we're just going to cut it down the middle. So we have some nice pieces of cucumber to feed into the Omega Vert juicer. Here's some more cucumber. We're just going to go ahead and slice in half. Real simple, real easy. Oh, and last, you can't forget the tomato. Now, tomatoes, in my opinion, are better blended, especially if they're getting a little bit soft, but everybody likes that tomato juice feeling, much like that V8. I think I almost got 8 different ingredients here, so maybe we'll call this a V8. For the juice you're making with the Omega Vert, it runs at a low speed with no heat involved. Standard V8 vegetable juice uses heat, and it's processed juice, and it's going to taste a lot different than fresh vegetable juice. So anyways, once again, we need to cut the tomato so that it will fit into the machine. It's a nice juicy heirloom tomato. So we're just going to go ahead and cut this in some pieces so we could feed this into the machine. So once we have all the produce prepared into little piles, we got the bok choy, the celery, the greens, the apples, the peppers, and the tomato, we're going to go ahead and turn the machine on and start juicing. It's really simple and really easy to use a juicer, and there's many kinds of juicers that you can buy, like the high-speed ones that run really fast. I prefer the low-speed ones. The low-speed ones are much more efficient on juicing leafy greens, and it's going to get a higher extraction or higher yield, and also a higher level of nutrition. So to start juicing in the vert, we're just going to put a handful of everything in at a time. So we're going to put a handful of the bok choy, followed by a little handful of the celery, followed by some of those greens that I just fresh picked. After we put all those in the machine, we always want to put something nice and watery that's going to help move those greens through. So we're going to drop 1 cucumber in there. And you can see instantly we're getting some green juice out. Next, for sweetness, we're going to drop in an apple and also some of that pepper. And here it is. Check out this pulp, man. This is the green pulp coming out. And this is actually nice and dry. So what the juicer does, it literally separates the juice from the fiber. And it's the juice over on this side that feeds you. We are 70% water, and we can only digest things that are in a liquid state. So by using the juicer, you take the fiber away that basically we really can't digest. And so it's like you're getting literally a shot of your garden in a glass. So I'm going to continue and juice more of this stuff, and we'll be back at you when we're done. So when you're done juicing, one of the byproducts of the juicing is you're going to have a whole bunch of pulp and also the juice. And this pulp is excellent to use to feed your worms, and hopefully you guys have a worm bin. The worms love the juice pulp, but of course you could also put the juice pulp in your compost bin. If you're really handy and like to get every last bit out, you could also make salads and do other things with this, cooking, put it in soups and stews, but for me, I just rather feed it to my worms or my compost bin. So I'm not even done juicing everything that was on my cutting board, and all of a sudden we have 4 cups of vegetable juice. Now what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and turn off the machine. We're gonna go ahead and put the pulp catch bin there, and we're gonna take our juice and we're gonna strain it. Now all juicers will produce some levels of foam and pulp, and if you don't like it, you know, just get a little strainer. We have a little strainer basket here that we're just gonna sieve our juice through. Just like that, and you can see in that basket it's catching all the pulp and all the foam, and all the fresh juice is going into the measuring cup. Very simple and very easy. Of course, if you don't mind, you can actually drink the foam and all the pulp as well. But I like a nice clean vegetable juice without the pulp. Although sometimes I like my pulp as well. So you can see here we got this, and now we could just shake this up a little bit and get more of that juice in our collection cup. All right, so here's our juice. We got 3 full cups of dark green vegetable juice. Now, dark green vegetable juice, in my opinion, is one of the most nutrient-dense things on the planet you could be consuming into your body. I mean, we know that leafy greens are really nutrient-dense, but when you remove the fiber, the nutrients in those leafy greens are much more absorbable and digestible. What the juicer is doing is breaking down the hard fiber cells that we don't have 3 stomachs like a cow to digest. It does all the work for you. I mean, after all, we are nothing more or less than a juice extractor. We eat whole food in, and out one end of us comes the solids and one end comes the liquids. So by using the juicer, it's going to save you the digestion, and it's going to make it easier for your body to absorb the nutrition. Nothing, wow, that's actually really good. Nothing better than a homegrown, rock dust enhanced, mineral rich green juice made in your own juicer. Hopefully this video will give you some ideas on what you can do if you are growing your own greens. Get a juicer and start juicing them today. It tastes great and it's less filling. Once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and keep on juicing.